This is the Louie T Network.
In the Lab Room.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. It is Tuesday in the lab room. I'm so disappointed. So very disappointed. I mean, at one point, as this game was unfolding right before my very eyes, I was speechless. And you know, look, I can sit here and talk all day long about football. And what I was seeing flash before my very eyes was not only another loss on my sheet for the week, and of course I'll get to that on Wednesday, but I was watching my sole survivor pool pick slip right through my fingers. And it was no way this was going to happen, not on my watch. Not the New York Jets, not in Atlanta against the Atlanta Falcons. No way. Not going to happen. Before I even break all of that down, Jets, Falcons, Monday Night Football. Atlanta Falcons at home, a team that doesn't lose very often in the Georgia Dome. And since Mike Smith has taken over, this team hasn't lost very many games at home in the Georgia Dome. Matt Ryan has never lost back-to-back games in the Georgia Dome. So I felt really good about this selection. I had went off on this tangent about how the Jets aren't as good and how the Falcons aren't as bad and yada, yada, yada. Look, Bill Parcells said it best. And you know what? I learned a invaluable lesson this week. Is that numbers don't lie. People can lie. People can say what they want to say. You can skew numbers to make them tell a different story. But numbers don't lie. And the fact of the matter is, I grossly overestimated the Atlanta Falcons' ability to win at home versus a Jets team that they're supposed to be able to beat. I overestimated their value, their worth in this football game. And I grossly underestimated the Jets' ability to go on the road and beat a depleted Atlanta Falcons team that isn't very good. And the records, the numbers, speak for themselves. Jets came into this game at 500 at 2-2. And Atlanta came into this game at 1-3 and struggling. And I chose to dismiss the records because I wanted to go off of prior history. I wanted to go off of what the Jets were, what the Jets are supposed to be, and I wanted to ignore the 2-2 record that they have on the season. Same thing with the Falcons. I wanted to ignore the 1-3 start to the season. I wanted to ignore the fact that they're struggling. I wanted to ignore the fact that they don't have Sean Witherspoon, that they don't have Corey Bierman, that they're struggling on the offensive side of football in the red zone, that they don't have a healthy Roddy White. I wanted to ignore all of those facts and just focus in on the past. Hey, this is a good football team that isn't going to lose to the Jets. And the bad part about this whole situation is I said before the season started that this Atlanta Falcons team was going to be 8-8. Tell you a quick story and then we'll get into the recap of the game. I was on a podcast early on before the season started, about week 4 of the preseason. And it was a debate podcast. And the host of the show asked me, hey, who do you think is going to be the most disappointing team that has high expectations in the 2013 season? And to much of everybody's surprise on the show, I said the Atlanta Falcons. And they said, wow, what makes you say that? And I said, look, they released Tyson Clabo, which was their right tackle last season. And they put in Lamar Holmes. And I had watched him struggle all throughout the preseason. And I said, I don't like the way that position looks. They let go of John Abraham as well, in addition to Tyson Clabo, their best pass rusher from a season ago. We saw them struggle in the postseason last year to get pressure on Russell Wilson. He carved them up. On Colin Kaepernick, he carved them up. They couldn't get pressure on the quarterback. And they went out and substituted O.C. Umenyiora for John Abraham, to me, wasn't a good trade-off. John Abraham still has pass rushing ability left in the tank. He got you double-digit sacks last year. What is O.C. Umenyiora doing? And to his credit, he hasn't been a bum this year. He got a couple of sacks in this very game that we're speaking of, but I didn't like that trade-off. And I said, this schedule that they have is extremely tough. When you win the division, you don't get layups. And so they were going to play some good teams. And I also felt like, and I hate to bring this up, but I call it the curse of Dread Jackson. Of course, I'm talking about Steven Jackson. He's been a lovable loser his entire career. Hasn't had a winning season since he entered the league. And I said, I just don't see things changing. The curse of Dread Jackson will follow him to Atlanta. So you add all of those things up. Plus, with Steven Jackson coming on board, you expect the running game to get better. But really, is it? That's what I said. Really, is it? With guys like Lamar Holmes, you lose Todd McClure, your longtime center, to retirement. Sam Baker is banged up. Really, is this offensive line going to be able to create holes for Steven Jackson? We'll see. But I wasn't sold. And so all of those reasons and more, I felt like the Atlanta Falcons were going to be 8-8. But one of the 8 losses wasn't to the New York Jets on Monday Night Football. So forget about all of that. They weren't supposed to be one of the losses. And coming into the game, I felt good. I said, you know what? This is a game that I feel confident that, A, the Falcons are mad because they let one slip away versus the Patriots a week ago. And they were thoroughly dominated in that game, but yet they still had an opportunity to win. And so I just talked about Matt Ryan not losing a home game coming off of a loss at the Georgia Dome. So he hadn't lost consecutive home games in his career, and I didn't expect the Jets to be able to come in and buck that trend. So I looked at Geno Smith and his struggles on the road and how many turnovers he had against Tennessee, and I said, why can't the Falcons do that to him? Because the Falcons aren't as good as the Titans on defense. The Falcons don't have any people to get pressure on Geno Smith. And the Falcons aren't a very good defense, and they're banged up. And they don't force turnovers. That's why the Falcons can't do to Geno Smith what the Titans did. And so I was just putting too many different scenarios where the Jets weren't going to win. What I basically did was I took it upon myself to just draw conclusions in this game that weren't there. The Falcons are better than their record. The Jets aren't as good as their record indicates. The Jets are going to turn it over because Geno Smith is on the road and he's going to struggle. The Falcons are going to right the ship because they're the Falcons. Too many assumptions were made going into this game. And what I saw from the get-go was that the Jets were confident. They came into this game, they expected to win. And when the Falcons didn't jump on them early, when the Falcons didn't come out and match the Jets' intensity in this football game, I knew not only were the Atlanta Falcons in trouble in this game, but I didn't care about the Falcons. I could care less about the Atlanta Falcons. That's not my team. And so I could care less about the fortunes of the Atlanta Falcons throughout the 2013 season. I just needed the Falcons for 1 week to stand up and say, hey, I got you, Lou. Don't worry about it. And I was asking too much. And they didn't match that intensity. The Jets came out. They went right down the field. They scored a touchdown. They got the football back. They went right down the field again. They scored another touchdown. It's 14-0. What in the Sam smell is going on? And I'm sitting in my chair in disbelief. And the Falcons are struggling. And this Jets defense is building more and more confidence. They're smashing the run. They are absolutely smashing the run. The Falcons can't run anywhere. And they're dominating the line of scrimmage. And I was like, wow, this is bad. This isn't bad. This is very bad. And what solidified it for me, because even when the Jets were up 17-7, I still hadn't lost hope. My stance hadn't changed. My stance and my confidence hadn't wavered totally yet. I still said, look, they're the Jets. they'll find a way to regurgitate on themselves. They'll throw up, and the Falcons will be there to take advantage. But right before the half, when the Falcons could not get it in the end zone, and they got a mulligan, okay? They went for it on 4th down. They threw it to Tony Gonzalez. He was getting mugged. They got pass interference. They should have taken the field goal. Instead, they got greedy. And they treated the Jets like I was treating the Jets. They said, it's the Jets. What do we have to lose? Even if we don't score, they're the Jets. We'll come back. We'll win. It's okay. And they treated the Jets like I was treating the Jets. And they're not in a position to treat the Jets like I was treating the Jets. I'm a spectator. I can say whatever I want to say and treat and mistreat and disrespect the Jets all I like. You as a football team must take the Jets seriously. And it was your job to get a field goal right there. Take the points, get some momentum going into the half. What you did was you altered the outcome of this game greatly by going for it, not getting it, and you knew you couldn't run. You knew you couldn't run it in. You couldn't run all first half. They tried to run it anyway, and they didn't get in. Jets get the stop, and they felt like they had won the game at that point. And at that moment, I felt like I lost the game. And at that point, I knew I'm in trouble tonight. I could actually lose my survivor pool right now. And that's the first moment in this game where I actually said to myself, Lou, you made a mistake. And I don't make those kind of assertions that often. It's not often that I second guess myself. But at that moment, I was second guessing myself. But when I look back on the picks for the week, there's no second guessing. I picked the right team. I picked the right game. I just was let down. That's all it was. And so the Jets going to the half 17-7. They're feeling good. They're pumped. They're hyped because they got to stop. And that was all the doing of the Atlanta Falcons. You kick the field goal. Sure, they feel like they won because they got to stop. But you still feel like, okay, we got the momentum. We got points. Instead, you get nothing. And to me, that was one of the turning points in the game. And Geno Smith had all day, and he was finding guys wide open. This Atlanta Falcons defense is terrible. And it didn't matter. Second half, he came out more confidence. And they went down the field, and they scored another touchdown. And they were up 24-7. And I'm like, wow. The Falcons are in danger of getting blown out in this game. And they kind of weathered the storm. I think they scored a touchdown before the Jets got to 24. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the Jets were in control for the majority of this game. And even when the Falcons took the ball down the field, on that last drive that they had offensively when they had to have it, I knew if they score this touchdown and leave Geno Smith, and I couldn't even fix my lips to say this because it didn't make sense to me. Psychologically, I needed to wash my face because I felt like I was dreaming. But I said, if they give the football back to Geno Smith, and I think they had about 2 timeouts at the time, at least one, with about 1 minute and 30 seconds left, which is probably what it was going to be when he got the football. They're going to lose this game. Because, and doesn't that sound ridiculous? Geno Smith driving it down the field for the game winner on the road against the Falcons. But the way the game had been played out, the Falcons couldn't have stopped him even if he had thrown them the football. They couldn't have picked it off. It was that type of night for the Falcons. They couldn't do anything right defensively. And so they didn't force any turnovers. He wasn't under heavy pressure. He was throwing the wide open targets all night long. And it continued on that last drive of the game. No pressure. Geno just went out there, took what the defense was giving him. And they were giving him a whole heck of a lot. You know, dump it off, let a guy run after the catch, find an open receiver down the field, hit him. And no pressure. None whatsoever. Jets didn't even have to burn any of their timeouts in pursuit of that game-winning field goal. They got down there nice and easy. And even when the Jets gave them a gift, 3rd down and about 5 from about the 33-yard line, Jonathan Babineau comes free. I mean, nobody touches him. 5-yard loss, 4 at minimum. If he tackles this guy, this is going to make it a long 54, 55-yard Nick Folk field goal. He didn't even tackle him. He lets him go. Bilal Powell, which a lot of people say he's underrated, and I would have to agree with them. He runs hard. He plays well. He played well in this game. Breaks the tackle. Gets about 3 yards, makes it a closer field goal. And Nick Folk hasn't missed on the year. And I couldn't even bring myself to sit there and hope and pray and wish that he missed. At this point, I was already defeated. Like I said, I was speechless because I knew what was going to occur. I had already said, once the Falcons scored, I didn't get excited. I said, Geno Smith is going to take this football, march it down the field, put him in position to win this game with a field goal, and they're going to win this game with the field goal because the Falcons haven't done anything all night to suggest otherwise. And what happened? Right down the field, play after play after play, they matriculate the ball down the field. No problems. Into field goal range they go. Nick Folk knocks it home from about 44. Good night. Drive safely. The Jets. The New York Jets. Let me say that one more time. The New York Jets go into the Georgia Dome and defeat the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football. 30-28. What in the world? Falcons drop to 1-4. Jets go to 3-2. And I am eliminated from the survivor pool. Unbelievable. Unreal. Absolutely stunned. Silence in my house. All I could do was sit at the front of the TV and just stare at it with a blank stare, like what just happened. And then, to make matters worse, I'm an Atlanta Braves fan, so I turned the channel to the Braves game only to watch Ron Uribe hit a 2-run shot in the bottom of the 8th, which seals the fate of my Braves as they lose that game, collapse, and they're gone. So it was double trouble for me on Monday night. It wasn't a good night for me. Sports-wise, couldn't have been a worse night. But it happens. That's why we love sports. Expect the unexpected. That's why they play the games on the field. And so I learned a valuable lesson on Monday. Guess what? You are what your record says you are. Despite your past, despite your present, whatever your record indicates you are that for a reason. And I chose to ignore that, and I paid the price for it. I love when there is a lesson to be learned in being ignorant. I wanted to be ignorant. I needed to learn. And I had to pay the price. Got to pay the piper. You don't want to listen, you got to pay the piper. I paid the piper. And some even worse news came out of this game for the Atlanta Falcons. Look, they're being very tight-lipped with all the information that's coming out about this injury. But if you ask me, the only foot injury that's going to keep you out for 11 games is a Liz Frank injury. So what you're telling me is he probably has a Liz Frank injury on the middle of his foot, and he's done for the season. He's going to get a second opinion, and if they confirm it, he's done for the year. And if he's done for the year, the Falcons are done for the year. And look, I had already told you, this is an 8-8 team. You take Julio Jones out of this equation, this is a 6-10 football team. So it could get from bad to worse for these very Atlanta Falcons. But they let me down some kind of terrible look. It's not all about the Atlanta Falcons here. Don't let me steal your joy, New York Jet fans. Your Jets played a whale of a ball game, and credit must be given where it is supposed to be given, and you guys earned this football game. They didn't give you anything. You went out and you took this football game. And I've said this time and time again, and I will say this until my face turns blue. If a team is coached by Rex Ryan, always know you can expect one thing. This team might not be good on offense. They might not get good quarterbacking. The running game might stink. The special teams could be horrid. Just know one thing. That team is going to play defense. If you know nothing else, that team is going to play defense. And they played defense, and they got it done, and they beat the Falcons. Rex Ryan coached them up defensively. Geno Smith was on the top of his game, and they get it done on the road. Kudos to the Jets. They're 3-2, folks. Hey, don't sleep on the Jets. I slept on them, and they woke me up. Smacked the hell out of me, woke me up. So I'm not sleeping on them anymore. I can't speak for you. I'm wide awake. I see you, Jets. You got my attention. Unfortunately, it cost me my survivor pool, but you got me. So, tough one to swallow, but hey, it happens. Not mad. It's a life-learned lesson. And we all love those, right? So, that's a touchdown. Go ahead and throw it up. We're going to tack on this quick extra point. Josh Freeman is a Minnesota Viking. I'm not going to go into it very thoroughly here, but I just wanted to bring it up, let you know that on Pro Football Central Weekly, the Tuesday edition, I will talk extensively about the Josh Freeman to Minnesota move and what it means for that football team and what it could potentially mean for Josh Freeman as well. I think it's a great landing destination, and I'll explain why on that program. So if you are interested in that, please check out Pro Football Central Weekly, Week 6 Tuesday edition for more on that topic. So I thank you for joining me here in the lab room. Very disappointing Tuesday, but hey, it happens. It's football. Love it. And so if it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. See you on Wednesday when I break down my Pick'em Weekly. And I had a rough week again. And I give you my sole survivor for the weekend. Man, that stings. That stings. But I'll be back on Wednesday. I'll shake it off and I'll give you another winner. See you then. Like the content? Want more? Sub up.
In the L.A.B room.